Why vegetarianism and violence prevention? The scientists say,
if an animal requires 1 acre of land, its eaters require several.
The spiritualists say, human beings have no right to be so cruel, selfish and unjust so as to slaughter the innocent animals who have served the mankind in several ways since time immemorial.
Dr. Alvin E. Adams, MD of Williamsport Nursing Home, Washington, has researched that meat is not human food. Meat eating is injurious to health. Meat diet is suspected in colon cancer.
George Bernard Shaw observed that the human stomach is not the graveyard of the dead bodies.
Dr. Alexander Haig, MD, FRCP of London, researched that fish and meat cause heart troubles, TB, etc.
Human beings are above all the creations. Hence, it is naturally expected of them that they show consideration, concern and compassion towards the other creatures.
Dr. A. Watchman and Dr. D.S. Bernstein of Harvard Medical School, America, have observed that eating meat may weaken your bones.
It is the principle of nature that as you sow, so shall you reap. Action has reaction. Hence, if you kill, slaughter or become instrumental in getting them slaughtered indirectly, you will also be slaughtered some day or the other.
Dr. K. Don of Australia found in his research that meat eating generally causes tapeworms which may grow up to 60 feet length inside a human intestine.
The cries and sighs of the dying animals that are being slaughtered are so terrible and tremendous that they leave behind them in their dead bodies the foreign elements that create psychological nervous tensions, physical lethargy and dullness, and intellectual madness and bankruptcy, that the meat eaters lose all their poise, balance and soundness and bring the spiritual downfall.
The Agriculture Department of Florida, USA announced that eggs contain DDT poison.
Meat eating is unethical, unnatural and unlogical for a civilized cultured human being.
Dr. Catherine Nemo of Oceano, California, USA proved that eggs cause heart troubles.
All the religions of the world have preached mercy, love and compassion. The Raham of the Quran and the love in the Bible is nothing but another form of non-violence. If I really love all, how could I kill any?
Dr. Robert Gross of England said that eggs cause eczema, paralysis, TB and white diarrhea.
The 10 Commandments ordered, "Thou shalt not kill," and the Bible indicated about the beautiful world and animals, the creations of God. If God has created this beautiful universe and animal kingdom to admire, have we, the human beings, any right to kill them and destroy? Live and let live.
Dr. E.V. McCollum, a great medical authority, proclaimed on page number 171 of Newer Knowledge of Nutrition that eggs cause putrefaction.
A non-vegetarian diet makes one merciless and gradually cruel. Meat eaters have turned the most cruel killers. Non-vegetarian diet brings violence, and the violent world keeps multiplying its sins and hence sorrow and suffering.
Dr. J. Ammon Wilkins of England came to the conclusion that eggs cause corrosion of blood vessels.
Every creature likes to live, no one likes to die. No one likes to get rid of life, particularly by an unnatural and cruel death by being slaughtered. Will you yourself like to be killed and slaughtered so ruthlessly? Then how could you allow animals to be slaughtered for your own pleasures?
Professor Okada of England clarified after his extensive research that eggs do not suit human digestion.
Could we afford to think of a world without animals who are our real friends and helpers? Vegetarianism and violence prevention. The spiritualists say, human beings have no right to be so cruel, selfish, and unjust so as to slaughter the innocent animals who have served the mankind in several ways since time immemorial. George Bernard Shaw observed that human stomach is not the graveyard of dead bodies. Human beings are above all the creations. Hence, it is naturally expected of them that they show consideration, concern, and compassion towards the other creatures and not behave like beasts. It is the principle of nature that as you sow, so shall you reap. Action is reaction. Hence, if you kill, slaughter, or become instrumental in getting them slaughtered indirectly, you will surely be slaughtered some day or the other. The cries and sighs of the dying animals that are being slaughtered are so terrible and tremendous that they leave behind them in the dead bodies the foreign elements that create psychological nervous tensions, physical lethargy and dullness, and intellectual madness and bankruptcy, that the meat eaters lose all their poise, balance, and soundness and bring their spiritual downfall. Meat eating is unethical, unnatural, and unlogical for a civilized, cultured human being. All the religions of the world have preached mercy, love, and compassion. The Raham of the Quran and the love in the Bible is nothing but another form of non-violence. If I really love all, how could I kill any? The 10 Commandments ordered, "Thou shalt not kill," and the Bible indicated about the beautiful worlds and animals, the creation of God. If God has created this beautiful universe and animal kingdom to admire, have we, the human beings, any right to kill them and destroy? Live and let live. Non-vegetarian diet makes one merciless and gradually cruel. Meat eaters have turned the most cruel killers. Non-vegetarian diet makes one devoid of consideration, sharp and sound discriminative intelligence, and power of right judgment. It is only the pure and perfect vegetarian diet that brings such balanced qualities and virtues and the ability and fitness to serve others rightly and to win over one's lust and passions and make one fit for religiosity, self-realization, yoga, spiritual advancement, and ultimately salvation. While on the other hand, non-vegetarianism increases desires, passions, and lust, multiplying into several other vices and sins, and thus bringing overall downfall on the personal level and madness of violence and hatred on the universal level, and creating a violent world. Such a violent and sinful world goes on increasing its sorrows and sufferings. Could you answer why these widespread sorrows, sufferings, and human slaughters everywhere? Why food and other shortages and water scarcity? Either no rains or floods. Why these diseases, unnatural deaths, earthquakes, and various natural calamities? Why these terrible accidents? Don't you think that they are mostly due to your sinful violent acts, individual as well as collective? Every creature wants to live. No one likes to die, particularly by unnatural and cruel means, by slaughter. Will you yourself like to be killed and slaughtered so ruthlessly? Then how could you allow animals to be slaughtered for your pleasures? A wise and advanced person sees life, spirit, soul everywhere, in everyone, just like his own self. He sees his self in others and others in his own. In this state of oneness and communion, how can he even think of destroying or killing or hurting others, physically, verbally, or mentally? Could we dare and afford to think of a world without animals and birds who are our real friends and helpers? Certainly, vegetation and vegetables also contain life, and their destruction and killing is also violence, and the more advanced non-violent person will gradually go above their utilization. But for the lay people, the violence caused by the vegetation utilization, that too also very carefully to the extent of bare minimum requirements, due to the vegetation's life's possession of one sense and lesser sensation, is very, very less compared to the five senses possessing much pain-bearing animals, birds, and human beings. Greater develop the senses and sensations and sentiments, greater is the degree of pain, torture, and violence. If the meat-eaters see the tortures of the animals being slaughtered in the slaughterhouses, if the fish-eaters witness the pains of the fish being cruelly caught and separated from their natural life and killed, and if the egg-eaters consider the inner condition of the live bird to be grown, or of the tortures of hens in the poultry farms, in the madness and illusion of artificial eggs, they will never touch or eat meat, fish, or eggs. Advocacy of eating these live children of Mother Nature in name of requirements and vitamins is an illusory, mad cry and craving for taste and a lust and nothing else. If the non-vegetarians have consideration, compassion, and heart, they will never turn to non-vegetarian diet on various pretexts and lame excuses. Non-violence or mercy, compassion, and love is the greatest religion. While progressing on the path of such non-violence and vegetarianism, a truly vegetarian person, a non-violent seeker, realizes that he should be more and more compassionate and that he should be one with his fellow beings and all the creatures. He goes on giving up human and animal exploitations as well as material possessions. He goes on offering them with joy for the benefit of others, especially the have-nots, not as a mere petty mercy or as an obligation, but as a sacred act of communion or oneness for the equality of all the souls in potentiality, since he knows and realizes that poverty is the worst form of violence. Can a truly non-violent person ever allow such poverty to prevail around him? He will personally and collectively strive to end such a poverty from his surroundings and everywhere that he can, by his own acts and examples of sacrifice. The fearful sighs and sufferings of dying animals and sins of their cruel killings, whether direct or indirect, bring a dreadful, fearsome, and terrible end, or death of a meat-eater, butcher, slaughterer, and killer. The fear, the physical, mental pains, the nightmare of horror, the deep, deep darkness, all catch hold of such violent people at the reactionful end of their lives. And such violent sinners die without any peace or happiness. Death takes them to a similar animal life and hell life, where they themselves, as a chain reaction, will be slaughtered and killed, not once but several times infinitely. It will be very, very difficult to get rid of those extremely painful sufferings. They will remain sunk in the deep darkness of sufferings for a long, long time. They will never attain human or celestial lives or salvation in their later births. This is what the actual seers, the far-sighted spiritualists and scientists say. Now what do you say? Does your judgment find any sound and real reason in violence and your way of eating and living? Would you like to be an overall sinner and meat-eater non-vegetarian? Think deeply and discriminately and decide yourself. Have a sound and true judgment. Pure vegetarian diet eating and innocent living leads to joy, peace, and opens the golden gateways of an infinitely happy life. Meat eating, non-vegetarian diet, and violent life always lead to several sorrows and miseries in life. Be non-violent, be totally vegetarian, be happy. We for victory, we for vegetarianism, we for a violence-free life, we for Vardhaman Bharati, the divine speech of the divine and entirely violence-free teachers, seers, and true saviors of the world. Greek philosophy. The flesh of creatures should not be taken for food. It is an abomination that one body should feed upon another. The natural foods of the body are vegetables and fruits, for they are also forms of life which have no soul. Pythagoras, the great Greek philosopher.
Islam. Let us see what Islam says. Fear Allah for the sake of the dumb animals. So says the Holy Prophet, the Quran. All creatures are members of the one family of God, the Holy Prophet, the Quran. Make not your stomachs graves for animals, Khalifa Ali, nephew and son-in-law of the Holy Prophet.
Sufism.
It is laid down in the canon law that if any man injures a beast by beating or overloading it, that will be required at his heart on the day of judgment. Further, Sufism says, a genuine Sufi never harms a living being. I have found that Sufis during the period of the spiritual training not only do not take meat, but also abstain from taking any kind of animal product. They do not cage the birds. Instances are not wanting, whereas they have fed the birds after purchasing them. Professor Muhammad A. Mamun.
Now let us see what the eminent persons and great philosophers have to say. First, Mr. George Bernard Shaw.
I detest meat eating because I do not like to make my stomach a burial ground or graveyard of dead animals and birds.
Mahatma Gandhi.
I would not hesitate to save a helpless limb at the cost of a human being. It would be better to die rather than eat meat. This is what Gandhiji addressed before the London Vegetarian Society in 1909. On another occasion, he said, I believe in the fundamental truth of all great religions of the world. I believe that they were necessary for the people to whom these religions were revealed. I do not want to live at the cost of the life of even a snake. I should let him bite me rather than kill him. I believe that all life is one. Thoughts take different forms. Tigers and snakes have kinship with us. Mahatma Gandhi declared on another occasion, I hold flesh food to be unsuited to our species. Vegetarianism is one of the priceless gifts of our religion. Abstention from meat is undoubtedly a great aid to the evolution of spirit.
Dr. S. Radhakrishnan. I have been a great vegetarian all my life, and the few years that remain will not see any change. Dr. Rajendra Prasad, President of the Indian Republic. I am one of those who believe that healthiest and the most natural food for human beings is vegetables, fruits, and agricultural products, and that a vegetarian diet is more conducive to simple living and high thinking than a non-vegetarian diet. Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya. When we are powerless to impart life to any creature, we have no right to deprive of its life, but when, in spite of that, man does so, it is nothing but an atrocious and high-handed and a great sin on his part.
Emperor Akbar in the Ain-e-Akbari of Abdul Fazl. From my earliest years, whenever I ordered animal food to be cooked for me, I found it rather tasteless and cared little for it. I took this feeling to indicate a necessity for protecting animals and a refrain from animal food. Providence has prepared a variety of food for men, but through ignorance and gluttony, he destroys living beings and makes his body a tomb of beasts. Now, let us remind what Swami Vivekananda said. Meat eating is uncivilized and vegetarian diet is proper for religious life.
Count Leo Tolstoy said, meat eating multiplies gross thoughts. It produces lust and induces drinking and adultery. Therefore, it is impossible for a meat eater to be normally good. If all men give up meat eating, political wars and lawsuits can easily be avoided. Charles Darwin in his Discovery of Man. In olden days, vegetarians were more numerous. I wonder how I failed to realize till now that the workers in the woods of Chile who were purely vegetarians are extraordinarily strong and healthy.
Abraham Lincoln. I care not much for man's religion, whose dog and cat are not the better for it. After all, one meaning of life is to be kind.
Voltaire said, men fed upon carnage and drinking strong drinks have all an empoisoned and acrid blood which drives them mad in 100 different ways.
Comrade Lenin said, I am now engaged in normal self-perfection. I do not take meat anymore. I now eat rice pudding.
H.W. Longfellow said, that man I honor and revere, and who, without favor, without fear, in the great city dares to stand, the friend of every friendless beast.
The Pope said, one all-extending, all-preserving soul connects each being greatest with the beast, made beast in aid of man and man of beast. All served, all serving, nothing stands alone.
And finally, poet Shelley said, "With all the sincerity that exists in hopes for the human race, I beg all those who desire the welfare of mankind and who love truth to impartially examine the vegetarian theories." Vardhaman Bharati International Foundation's Movement of Vegetarianism and Violence Prevention.
We for vegetarianism.
We for violence prevention.
We for Vardhaman Bharati.
Thank you.